we're going to start in about 30 seconds.
Okay, we're on.
We're on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do like a little bit of an overview of the world of Nikudim, so that we can really get into it more and more every week. But it's good to do something a little bit more broadly, and then we'll do every little detail in the following weeks. So we're not going to say everything there is to know about it, because there's a lot to know. And that's one of the great things about the writings of the Ari, is how broad it is and how specific it is. So we'll have a chance to really do that in depth. But today we're not going to do the text, and we'll wait till the following weeks for that. So Peter, if you don't mind, if you can just get me a chumash, because I'm going to be referring to a number of psukim. Maybe you want to get more than just one. There are other people who might want. One of the objectives of Kabbalah in general, the Zohar and the Ari in particular, is to source things in the Torah. Not just to prove that the inner meaning, the Kabbalistic meaning of interpreting what reality is in the Torah, but even more than that, to show that there is no real way to truly understand the Torah without Kabbalah. So, in fact, one of the great things both about the Zohar and the Ari, that even the most prominent of the academic students of the Kabbalah, Gershon Shalom, pointed out, is that once you study the Zohar on the Torah, you find that you can't learn the Torah again in any other way without thinking that the real way is the Zohar's way. In other words, it's not just that, the Zohar or the Ari can each find a reference to what they're trying to say in the Torah, but it's even more than that. Once you go there, there's no going back, because that's everything else in comparison. It's kind of like, in the yeshiva world, there's a certain derech halimud, there's a certain way of learning. A certain way, it's the analyze things like chefza gavra, the subjective or subjective, and it's a very intriguing way to analyze a lot of different Talmudic discussions. And once you have that kind of way, that becomes like a dominant. That's become a dominant way for the yeshiva world to analyze it. So it's hard to go back to just before, so to speak. And the same can be said of the Zohar and the Ari. Once you get into it, you can't go back, so to speak. It becomes a very powerful way to go and read a parsha or a pasuk. So we will be doing a number of psukim to just see the Kabbalistic interpretation that the Ari uses to explain exactly what the world of Nikudim is, and how we see it in the Torah, and what we learn about it from the Torah. So we start all the way with the beginning in Bereshis, second verse. The first chapter says, "Va'aretz haisa tohu vavohu, v'choshech al pnei tehom, v'ruach elokim rachefes al pnei hamayim." And the earth was tohu. Tohu I'm going to translate as in a severe state of crisis. V'vohu, bohu could be vohu, what is in it, meaning it's emptiness, but it could also mean bohu, there is something in it.
Wow.
V'choshech, darkness. Darkness, we know, is also a reference often to the other side, the opposite of light. Al pnei tehom, on the face of the tehom, which again has tohu in it, and then a mem, of the great void. V'ruach Elokim, and the ruach, which is a type of spirit of Elokim, merachefet al pnei hamayim, is hovering on the face of the water. The Ari is going to read a lot into these words, tremendous amount into many of these words, including gematrios. For example, marachefet, the first letter is mem, the last letter is taf, mate. It's alluding to the death, the seven, the destruction that we're going to talk about, that happens in the world of Nikudim, which is often referred to as the world of Tohu. The Reish Chet Pei can be arranged to Reish, the Reish Pei Chet Rapach, which is the 288 sparks that fell in the breaking of the vessels. That's just one example of what the Ari will do. And he does this with many, many psukim, finding many of these arrangements of allusions to these details of what's going to happen in the world of Tohu. Al pnei hamayim, on the face of the water. V'yom Elokim hi'ar v'hi'ar. Then there's after the world of Tohu comes the world of Tikkun. God says, let there be light, there's light. V'yar Elokim et ha'ar ki tov, v'yad Elokim et ha'ar ben ha'choshech. God sees the light, it is good. He separates between the light and the darkness. There's another verse, just a verse later, we'll skip a verse, to Pasuk Vav, the 6th verse. Vayarma Elokim yehi rakia b'soch hamayim, and God said, Hashem said, yehi rakia, let there be a firmament in the middle of the water, v'hi mavlo bin mayim l'mayim, and let there be a separation between water and water, between upper and lower waters. The Ari will say that this is alluding to the Parsa. The Parsa is a special second level of a tzimtzum. Everybody is well aware of the Ari's teaching, considered his most famous teaching of the tzimtzum, the original contraction of the Or Ein Sof, of the infinite light. But in addition to that, there's a series of tzimtzumim. But the second, kind of most serious tzimtzum is this concept of a parsa. Parsa comes from a type of a thick covering that also conceals what's on the inside of it from that which is on the outside of it.
So the parsa is like a measurement of the gamayel, something like that?
There is a parsa which is a measurement, a parsang, whatever that's worth, it's how it's translated. But a parsa here is a thick covering that disconnects, but still allows a little bit of light to shine through under certain circumstances. The Ari will also use, for these analogies, we'll get into it, different parts of the body, because the whole premise of Kabbalah is that we were created in the words of the Torah, with the features of God. So therefore we're going to analyze many aspects, and in this particular area of the human body is the diaphragm. Am I saying it right, Rafi? Which is supposedly the physical equivalent of the parsa in the body. that holds up the upper kishkas from the lower kishkas or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the physiology. You can
the abdomen from the thoracic cavity.
Okay, so to be more medically correct, the abdomen from the thoracic cavity. So there's this thing in the body that kind of holds one thing apart from another thing, but something has to be allowed to enter and exit in its proper way. I don't know about the physiology of it, but that's the premise that the Ari is working on. So there's going to be a parsa, and he bases it. He uses that pasuk, that verse, number 6, in the first chapter to allude to the parsa. And that's what it says. V'yavdil ben hamayim asher mitachas l'rakia ben hamayim asher me'al l'rakia. Then, what is possibly, other than the first verse, which is the second verse of Genesis, of the verse that actually says Tohu, V'vohu, the other section that is most often quoted in terms of the world of Tohu is the death of the kings of the descendants of Esav. See, if only if I was a Balkar, I'd be able to turn to it in 1 second. I am happening. As I turn the pages, I turn by. I just. This must be the right order because it comes before, and I can't not mention the bigger context of the world of Nikudim within the three worlds that are talked about in another pasuk, in another verse in Parshas Vayetze. It says that there's a deal that's reached between, and then I'll get back to the death of the 7 kings, which is critically important for this. There's a business deal that's agreed upon between Yaakov and Lavan. And Lavan acknowledges his Yaakov's kind of help and his increase of wealth, Lavan's own increase in wealth since Yaakov's arrival because of the blessings that he's received because of Yaakov. And they agreed to the following. That Yaakov will take away all the sheep that are nakud, the spotted and the specked sheep.